Welcome to this Whole Life Action Hour. I am Ocean Robbins, and I am so glad to be with you as we talk about the foundations of fitness. It's often said that sitting is the new smoking. The truth is, your body needs to move, and when it doesn't move, you're setting yourself up for an increased risk of the biomarkers that fuel chronic illness. But it's not always easy to optimize your fitness in the modern world. And that's where health and fitness expert Lani Muelrath shines. Using effective research-driven exercises and a foundation in functional fitness, Lani cuts through the confusion and all the trends and complicated weight loss routines to give you the simple tools that have been proven to work and practical wisdom to help you thrive in a fit body. Lani Muelrath is an award-winning health educator. She's a best-selling author, speaker, and TV host. She's well known for her expertise in plant-based, active, and mindful living. She is trained as a physical educator, a mind-body specialist, and a mindfulness meditation facilitator. She is recognized as a thought leader in the embodiment of awakened awareness in everyday life. Lani is a recipient of the California Golden Apple Award for Excellence in Education. She's a guest lecturer at San Francisco State University and an associate faculty member in kinesiology at Butte College, where her first book, Fit Quickies, 5-minute targeted body-shaped workouts, has been adopted as a required course textbook. Now, I want to be very clear here before we move any further that nothing you will hear today is medical advice. This is coaching. This is us sharing our best insights. But of course, you should always consult with a qualified healthcare professional for your specific medical issues and needs. That said, you are going to learn a lot today, and we are so thrilled to be here with Lani Muelrath. Welcome, Lani.
Thank you, Ocean, and hello, everyone. I'm just so glad to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to be with you. And I want to jump right in first with a little bit of discussion about what's at stake. So when people don't, I mentioned earlier the phrase that sitting is the new smoking. When people don't move, when people don't get enough exercise, what is the cost of that at a physiological level?
Yeah, and you put it well. Another way to say it is too much sitting is hazardous to your health. And I'm sitting right now. But many times I will do interviews standing because I have my desk set up so I can be in a standing situation. But I've been kind of moving all morning. So I thought, okay, I'll sit for this interview. But what happens is, as you said so eloquently just in your introduction, that being sedentary is called sedentarism. It actually has a name. It accelerates and elevates the disease biomarkers in your body. And what does that mean? That means you result in having elevated triglycerides, elevated cholesterol. You have reduced glucose sensitivity, which means when you eat anything that stimulates the release of anything glucose that stimulates insulin release, your body has a harder time handling it. Another real big one is that comparing sedentarism or not moving enough with activity is there's a really important protein in your body called lipoprotein lipase. And that is what is tasked with moving the fat that is in your bloodstream from anything you eat or what's released into your fat for storage, your fat cells for storage, or into your muscles for activity. So where do you want yours to go? Where do you want the LPL to move your fat in your system? To your fat cells for storage or to use for energy in your muscles?
Well, I think we know.
Yeah, we know. We all want it to move the muscles. So this is one of the very direct benefits of moving more, because when you move more and sit less, you elevate the receptivity in your muscle cells as opposed to your fat cells. So that's why there's a mini science lesson there, but it's very practical. Where do you want this energy to go, into storage or into activity? So there's just a starter list of why sitting less is important.
Yes. So there's some question about what amount of exercise is best and what types of exercise are best. Would you say it's fair to say that a diversity is kind of optimal, that you want to get some cardio and but also some just repetitive, steady movement. And you also want to break up the day with lots of pieces rather than one, say, an hour of exercise in the morning and then you sit for 10 hours straight.
Okay, well, I got a lot of answers in there. For one is when I wrote Fit Quickies, what I really wanted to do was create an exercise prescription that people could understand. Because once you start diving into how much strength training should you have, how much cardiovascular should you have, and it really you get lost in the literature before you can figure out a simple answer. So think of it as that there are four I say stresses in a good kind of stress for your body that you need in physical activity. And one is cardiorespiratory training. So most people are familiar with that. It's specifically repetitive movement using the large muscles of your body that elevates your heart rate and your breathing rate so that your heart and lung system become stronger. So that's one kind of training. And you should do that 3 to 5 times a week from 30 to 60 minutes. Now that sounds okay, which is it? Well, it depends on how long you spend at it and how intense your exercise is. So the more intense your exercise, the less time you need. The less intense, you should have a little bit longer of time. So next is strength training, which means some kind of resistance that stimulates your muscles to retain strength or build strength, depending. And this you should probably 2 to 3 times a week, something that's going to target the major muscle groups of the body and stress it at a percentage of they call it a 1 rep limit, like the most you could. But you know what? You don't really need to know that. What you need to know is anything that feels like it's work for your muscles and you know it when you're doing it and when you're done, right? That you be sure that you are doing that 2 to 3 times a week. And that's why I did the Fit Quickies book that you mentioned, is I really wanted to find strength training or resistance training exercises anyone could do anywhere, even without special equipment. And you can find that in squats and in lunges and in planks and push-ups. You can just use your body for this kind of resistance. Climbing stairs, you get not only cardio, but you get some strength training in your lungs and in your legs. So we've had cardiorespiratory and then strength. You also need some kind of flexibility training, which is very important for our resilience and for survival. And being strong and being heart fit isn't going to necessarily help you when you start to fall over on a rocky trail, which is all we have here in Sonoma County. It's all rocks, and you have to, it challenges your balance all the time. Yes. And there's one more, there's fourth, and that's neuromotor training. And that's what specifically connects brain to body. Anytime you move your body, you're connecting with your brain, but there are certain exercise techniques that we all are familiar with, like yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong, those kinds of things, and Pilates really may ask us to consciously connect with our physicality. Yes. So all 4 of those are important to do to some extent on a regular basis.
Got it. Thank you so much for that. I'll say that when I've been reflecting that sometimes people feel tired or stressed and they think they'll do themselves a favor and take some time off. It's like, I'm tired today, so I'll just skip working out. I'll skip exercise. And the way I see it, that's a little bit like, I'm tired and I'm stressed, so I'll eat some comfort food. I'll open up a bag of chips or cookies or something like that. There's a tendency when we're worn, when we're exhausted, when we're at our wits' end, to be pulled into habits that may feel short-term comforting or comfortable, but in the long term, they actually can make the problems worse. Do you see it that way also?
Yeah, I do. And I'm going to respond to that, but I don't want to forget something that just came up that responded to something you said about doing your workout in the morning and sitting the rest of the day. There's something important information for that. So remind me to come back to that.
I will.
I get that. People are working all day long, but they think, okay, I know when I get home, I'll go out for my hour run, or I'll go on a hike, or I'll do that exercise class. And somehow the end of the day comes and it's like, no, I think I'm going to lay down and eat something and watch TV. It's just, it's a human condition. We're tired and we're stressed. And at the same time, there's not a person, I think, that watching our conversation and engaging it who wouldn't agree that after you take like a 10-minute walk, that you don't feel better. You just feel better. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it is increased oxygen. Part of it is because you have been able to dissipate the stress hormones that have been released in your body. Those are, all day we're actually encountering the fight, flight, or freeze situations, whether it's a big thing or whether it's just stress in relationships or busy at your job. And that's why we feel better after we move. So connecting with what you can feel like in a few minutes. And you know what, Ocean, I think it's really important. And this is another thing I wanted to do with the Fit Quickies book, is to not think of it as all or nothing. This is very common, that folks will have a sense that I need to go out on a run for 45 minutes a day. And they get home and they just don't feel like it. And so they just abandon. That's just an example. They just abandon the whole thing, when it would be better to just simply do some simple movement, even some stretching.
Yeah. You can do a lot in 5 minutes. I mean, like literally 5 minutes is enough time to like get your blood pumping, with all kinds of things. You can literally put on a song and dance your heart out for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell me they can't free up 5 minutes in their day sometime.
You know what? I want to slip an exercise in right here, because sometimes this is the thing that will get you going. It's the exercise number 10 in the Fit Quickies book, and it's called Legs into Play. And all it is standing with your legs straight and rising up onto your toes and dropping down to the heels. People think, it's like calf raises. But what happens is your calves are known as your heart's peripheral pump, because as soon as you start squeezing the calf muscles, not only does your circulatory system with your blood and oxygen move, but your lymphatic system starts getting squeezed. So you do that for like 2 minutes of calf raises, and you will just feel more energized. That may be all you need to do to get you out on the door on a longer walk. And I do this on the plane, not that anyone's flown anywhere for the last year, but you can do this sitting. You can I'm sitting as I am now. I'm putting my fingertips on the ends of my knees to push down and coming up onto my toes and heels down, up and down and up and down. And you start getting that. It takes care of that, that thrombosis that happens in the plane where you get all this blood pooling in your lower legs.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of answers right there. But basically, it's don't think so big that you intimidate yourself. And you know what? I have a lot of strategies for helping people get connected with that, because if people have been not doing anything for sometimes years, anything by any kind of stress to themselves physically, there's all kinds of techniques to get yourself moving more. And one is to if you want to commit to like doing a 10-minute walk at the end of the day, and it's awful when you get home. Well, put your shoes and a jacket, if it's going to be cold, or a pair of shorts by the door, so that when you get home, it's right there. All you have to do is put it on. Even if for the first few days, all you do is put it on and sit back down, you're starting to set a new pattern. So to loop back to the question about, can you just do your hour workout and then you got the rest of the day? Actually, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, because the research shows that if you do that strategy of, I got my run in the morning and now I can lay around 10 hours for the rest of the day, your elevation of disease biomarkers is just as much for someone who didn't work out at all. It's not fair.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. It's actually called, you're an active couch potato. So it does not negate the problems with sitting too much. But you know what, Ocean, that's an easy thing to fix. And, you're a writer, you know what it's like and how you can get absorbed, and hours later, you're, wait, how long have I been sitting here? But, in writing my books, what I've done to get in a good habit is set a timer on my computer or my phone. And then at every 40 minutes, chime would go off, and that meant just go out and get the mail, go put the clothes in the laundry, get the dishes out of the dishwasher, get the rice into the rice cooker, something to break it up. And then you're refreshed for your work too. So lots of simple strategies, everyone.
Nice. And big plug for having some nice headphones and being able to, if you like music and you ever like to dance, like even if you're doing the laundry or, you know, doing the dishes, if you got some music going, you're probably going to get a little more groove going. You're not just doing the thing. You're like, let yourself have some fun with it.
Well, what you're talking about is setting it up so that the music just starts moving you. You can't not move.
Right.
If you're using a strategy, that's very helpful. Yeah. Make something work, make it work for you.
Yeah. Another thing I do is I drink a lot during the day when I'm working, and then I have to pee a lot, and every bathroom break is another opportunity to move.
I think that water thing, and you probably stress that a lot in your program, is how important that is. As a matter of fact, I've been fortunate enough to go to a plant-based doctor when I was living north of here in Chico. My husband and I were there, and she and I used to teach through the CHIP program, which I know you're familiar with Hans Deal.
Yes.
And she said a good way they found very effective, and the research shows to drop cholesterol level is to drink 3 quarts of water a day, 1 before each meal. And boy, I think you do have to get up more. That's true.
It can be good or bad, but if you look at it as a sort of a built-in alarm clock that will keep you moving, that can be a good thing, right? Yeah, lovely. And here's the thing: some people are afraid they'll break their focus or lose their productivity, but sometimes that moment of space, you come back with some fresh ideas. It can actually be good for your mental clarity as well, to get a little
as we said, we talked about the stress hormones and the lymphatic system. It's no wonder, you know, when people go to a lecture or, you know, a classroom, and by the end of the time people are falling asleep, that's because you're not getting that peripheral pump. Your calf muscle is just, everything's been pooling down there. Just getting that muscle squeezed a little bit, as you're talking about with tips of moving, is big.
Yeah. And I think you might have mentioned a standing desk, but I have an autonomous desk that you just literally push a button and it goes up, turns into a standing desk, push another button, it goes down. It's all set for the right height for me. And it's really nice. So sometimes when I've got a long day, I'll have a meeting standing, and I can kind of walk in place a little bit or wiggle around or do the calf raises you described. Yeah. And, you know, and then after a half hour, I pop it back down again. And it's
that's brilliant. And there's so many of those now. I remember several years ago when I was just finding out the research about sedentarism, and there wasn't anything like that available. Well, I just went out to the garage, you know, the furniture graveyard we all have in the garage. I got an old credenza, and I put a table on top of it, and I researched ergonomics on it, meaning make sure I had the right elbow, right angle looking at the camera. And I got a chair that I could pump up. So if I had to sit down, you know, those chairs, you can get it like I got at Costco or something. So I could move from standing to sitting, but I found I preferred the standing. I had increased energy for all the reasons we've been talking about.
Yeah.
And then you break it up with sitting, which is how it should be. There's nothing wrong with sitting and lying down in proper balance.
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. Okay, well, we got a lot of questions from our members, so let's jump into some of those, and then we'll see if we have more time to chat at the end. So Patricia said, how can I get cardio? I'm missing left leg below the knee along with 2 quadriceps due to an accident. So even though I wear a prosthesis, I cannot run or walk very fast. The public pools are closed. I'm 75 and don't want to keep waiting for them to open. Any thoughts for Patricia with that particular situation?
Yes, Patricia, that sounds very challenging, and I'm impressed that you are being proactive about this and, you know, trying to make a difference. So let's look back to what the definition of cardiorespiratory is. And we spoke about that earlier. We were talking about the 4 kinds of fitness that you need. And what it is, it's sustained rhythmic motion of the large muscle groups of the body over time. And so your challenge is you're missing some of the muscles in those muscle groups. So question number 1, you said you can't walk very fast, but it sounds like you are able to walk then. So is there a way that you can measure your cardiorespiratory stress? For example, there's the Borg test, where you can find out if when you're moving, if you can start reciting Mary Had a Little Lamb. And if you have to go, Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow. Oh, wait, it should say her or his fleece was white as snow. Not it. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. If you have to break it up after every sentence, you're probably at a good pace. If you can go through the whole sentence, you're not working hard enough. So I would first see if you are getting enough challenge with what you're doing. Also, are you able to use a stationary bike? That may be a way that some of your ambulation problems would be bypassed, and you could still use the large muscle groups through your hips and the back. There's also, for people who are in rehab or physical training and don't have lower body ability, you can actually do exercise cycle with your arms, because your arms, granted, they're not as big as the muscles in your legs in the backyard, but they still fulfill the idea of getting regular motion. Now, I want to make something clear here, because many people have the understanding that if I just raise my arms above my head, it makes my heart rate go up a little bit. So maybe I can just do that, but that's not meeting the definition of sustained large muscle movement. All right. Of course, your body has to work a little harder to get your blood up to your fingertips, but you need to keep the pump and a rhythmic going. So I hope there's some options in there that would be applicable to you.
Yes, thank you. And hopefully, Patricia, the pools will be open again soon too, because that sounds like that's been a good one for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Laura said, I had knee surgery in February. I want to get back to running. The inside quad, Vastus Lateralis muscle, is not engaging. Well, it's slow to come back online. Do you have any exercises that would aid in getting that particular muscle moving again?
Okay. Actually, Vastus Lateralis, I think, is on the outside. It's a large muscle on the outside of the quad. But here, first thing I would say to that is, have you been physical therapy, and what does your physical therapist say? Right. Because there's a whole lot of things that are coming into play here as your body is recovering from whatever situation. So that would be the first thing. That's a good question for your physical therapist. It's like, I don't like to do a doctor prescribe without seeing the patient. There are really good exercises that you can do that will strengthen this muscle. But again, I would want to run them past a physical therapist, because balance is really important. A balance among muscles is really important to consider when you are trying to strengthen something. You don't want to over strengthen something at the expense of something else. And if your physicality has been compromised, that's an important consideration. Two exercises I can give you though without any hesitation, and one is the calf raises that we were talking about earlier. That actually, if you lock your knees straight and come up onto your toes, you are strengthening the entire knee joint. Another that you can do is laying on your back with one knee bent, one leg straight, and just slowly raise one leg and lower. It does work the hip flexing muscles, but it also works that lateralis on the outside. There's also squats and lunges and those kinds of things, but on wall sits, lots of exercises, but run them by your PT if you can.
Yes, thank you for that. Joanne said, any tips for establishing an automatic daily habit of Pilates exercise? I hill walk daily, averaging around 16 hours. I'm going to guess she means per week, not per day.
Yeah, that wouldn't leave much for sleeping. So.
However, I rationalize not doing Pilates with the thoughts that walking is enough.
All right. Well, first is, excuse me, her name was Janet?
Joanne or Joe?
Joanne. It was a J. Joanne, first, congratulations on keeping your walking up. That's what I do. I'm at least an hour a day, and it's just such a fundamental basic for overall fitness and mental clarity and all of it. Now you said automatic. So does that mean that without even thinking about it, you would just all of a sudden find yourself doing your Pilates? I'm going to have to tell you, it's going to take some kind of effort. And until you are easily overtaken by the rewards that come from putting in that time for that exercise. So that makes me ask, do you enjoy Pilates? Is that something that you like to do? Or you have to drag yourself kicking and screaming to do it? Are you using a video you like? Do you like your instructor? Is the class too long? What is it? If you don't like it very much, then I would suggest finding something, instructor program that you do like. The other thing is to set yourself a simple schedule. Maybe, I don't know what your expectations are of yourself. You say regular. I don't know if you're thinking every day, 2 to 3 times a week, but something that you think is manageable and of short duration so that you can build up a sense of accomplishment around it and establish a sense of connectivity with your well-being when you are finished. And I congratulate you for pursuing Pilates. I was certified in Pilates instruction many years ago, and it will do some core activity and muscle balancing and mental training for you that are unsurpassed. So that helps out, but I can't give you an automatic, everyone wants that my body's just going to go, I'm not going to be able to wait to go and do that exercise no matter what's happened that day. But as Ocean put it so eloquently earlier, we have to look at the human condition and reality and see how we can work with ourselves in a kind way.
Yeah. I just want to expand on that for a second as far as a couple broader principles. So one is that for most people, the first few times they do any new thing, it's not the most fun. I mean, if you're trying new foods, you have to, all the time it takes to like try a new recipe, it takes 4 times as long as when you know the recipe well and you've done it a million times, because you're like, oh, how much teaspoons of this? And, you know, it just takes a while. And getting there, oh my God, I forgot to get the chia seeds. I have to go back to the store. And, you know, but then once you get familiar, it gets faster. And the same is true with an exercise program. You know, when you first work out at the gym, learning how the machines work, learning how your body responds, what are the right weights to use, how many reps can you do? And then your body will also have more soreness at first. The blood flow is unfamiliar. There's more lactic acid buildup. You'll have more pain the next day and even more the day after that sometimes when you're first starting out. You can't push to your max on your first day working out at a gym. But once you get going and grooving, it'll get easier. And then you can start pushing into your max more. Your blood gets more engorged. Your muscles get stronger. They repair faster. And over time, it gets more fun. You have more dopamine, you have more pleasure, you have more satisfaction in the experience, and you have less pain. I'm not to say none, but less. And
it's more rewarding. So
it's more rewarding and your body comes alive. And the same is true with healthy food patterns. For those of you who shifted your diet, when you start eating better, it gets easier. And over time, kale actually tastes better. Your saliva literally changes. You eat proteins that make it taste sweeter after about 5 or 10 times eating kale. Whereas the first time most people eat it, it tastes pretty bitter. This is actually research-backed data here. So we see that over time, things get more familiar, they get more comfortable, they get easier, and you get better at them. And, you know, anytime you pick up a musical instrument for the first time, you'll probably sound pretty bad. Even I suspect the greatest trumpeter in the world, the first time they picked it up, didn't sound great, you know, but over time you get better. And then that builds confidence and fluency. And so the key thing here is, number one, don't give up if you don't like it the first time or two. Stay with it a little bit. But number two, find the things you do enjoy. Find the things that make your heart sing, that bring you alive. Like, for example, I play racquetball 2 or 3 times a week. We live walking distance from a racquetball gym. And for me, that's just my like super fun thing. I don't have to, I'm sweating like crazy. I'm completely exhausted. I'm gasping for air. And I'm not thinking, yay, I'm getting good cardio. I'm thinking, I want to win this point. And so you can find things like that bring you alive, where the exercise is actually a byproduct of play of some kind. Then I think that's really uniquely satisfying.
But that's the ideal. And if we had Joanne in the conversation here with us, we could find out exactly where she stands on all those things with this Pilates idea.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a question from Diane who said, I'd like to try yoga, but I don't know where to start. There's so many choices. I've tried a couple classes before and they were way too hard. I'm a senior. I've only been lightly active over the past year and looking for a gentle introduction that I can succeed at and then build on. What would you suggest?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because I have a special affiliation for yoga, because that is where I got started. I actually started teaching when I was in college, and I learned from my mother, and it's very special to me. And I think a very common thing is for people starting yoga to be overambitious, and you've detected it right away. It's just too hard because yoga is challenging. Even though it looks like you're just standing there holding position and breathing, that's hard. It can be really hard in some of those positions. So I don't know how extensive a search you have done for programs out there. There's a lot of courses and classes and things on YouTube and online that you can take. If you haven't found a particular line of DVDs or study that you like, you might search around like that. And one that I would recommend is there is an instructor who has a lot of online videos. They're no charge for them. And her name is Leslie Fightmaster, and it's called Fight Master Yoga. Now that sounds like it's, but that just
Master, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
man.
not really her last name though, right?
Yeah. So, and she has many different levels, and it's all archived. It's up a long time. She's not producing new videos now, but it's there. So you could look up, if you look up Leslie Fightmaster and go to her, and it's spelled just like it sounds, you could go to her YouTube channel. But I would just do a search for easy yoga. Don't be reverse intimidated by that, because what you do is you can make it as challenging as your body is able to hold. Just a personal example too, when we moved here to Sonoma about a year and a half ago, I found a yoga studio. This is before everything was closed down, of course. And it was the Vinyasa Yoga, which I was not familiar with. I'm trained in Hatha Yoga, which is pretty easy and gentle, and you work your way up. But I went to the class. I thought, I'll go to the challenging class because I know how to do this. And it was like the Sun Salutation, which everyone who's done yoga is familiar with that series of exercises. But it was like starting the class with a dozen of them, and you spend all this time upside down and holding your leg in the air, and it was just too much. So I went to the Sunday easy class, and it was challenging enough for me. And then I worked my way up from there. So start where you are. Build in your own challenge, and I hope that you are able to find there's so much online now. If you do some searches, watch a few minutes of that, a few minutes of this, and I'm sure you'll find something for you.
All righty. Thanks so much for that. One other resource I will just have to mention here is Feldenkrais. So Feldenkrais, it was developed by a man named Moshe Feldenkrais, an Israeli practitioner, and Feldenkrais is his last name. It's Feldenkrais. And Feldenkrais is also known as awareness through movement. And it's a system of movement techniques. Sometimes people work with a practitioner one-on-one, but there's also Feldenkrais lessons where you put on a lesson and a practitioner guides you through certain movements for like a half hour or so. Right. And they're very gentle, and they change the way that the brain and the body interact. And they help to create
in the category of neuromotor training we were talking about earlier, the fourth category.
Yeah.
Very powerful. It's like you're not doing much, but it just, you know what, Ocean, that just shows you how the power of just shifting something with how you hold yourself or how you engage your muscles can just have such an effect on everything else.
Yeah, my mom and dad have done an hour or more of Feldenkrais lessons every day for the last 40 years. So
oh my gosh,
it's a big part of my childhood, and it's been deeply ingrained. And for them, it's been a game changer as far as creating coherence and alignment and synchronicity. And quite frankly, it creates a lot of healthy awareness of the body interaction with the world. So you have better balance, and you're more likely to not knock things over and be clumsy, and also less likely to get injured because you're more attuned to your body's signals.
Mind-body awareness. That's a good story. I'm glad you brought that in.
Yeah. Marilyn said, in 2012, I experienced a stroke that left me without function of my left arm, but able to walk. Balance is my biggest issue. What equipment would you suggest I work out on? I joined the Y and attend 3 days a week working out and swimming.
Oh, well, good for you. It's so inspiring to hear people with physical challenging situations and they don't let it get in their way. I mean, so many people are in perfectly able bodies and still whine and moan about moving, and it just really inspires, doesn't it? Well, first I would say, unless you don't need any special equipment, unless that's what you would like. You actually get a greater challenge to your balance by doing body weight exercises. And let me explain. We're all familiar to some extent with what exercise machines look like in a gym. So you can actually sit down and do an overhead press, grab onto the handles and push up and down. What happens is you're using a machine, it actually helps stabilize your body for you, it locks you into a position. Whereby is if you happen to grab a couple little 2 to 5 pound dumbbells and did slow lift up and down while you were standing, your core muscles have to scramble into action to help you stabilize against that. You can do anything, even standing on one leg and raising one leg out to the side and bringing it back in very slowly. Just standing on one leg, doing yoga positions like the tree, 1 foot behind you and one arm overhead. Those are all, anything you do that seems to throw you off balance is going to increase your balance. And you don't need special machines. If you are in a place where you really want to be part of the gym scene and use equipment, though, there should certainly be a trainer on the floor or at the facility, and you tell them your interest is balance. And either they'll show you the equipment or they'll direct you over to the free weight body strength, body weight exercise area. Good question. All good questions. This is fun. I love this kind of meeting the needs. So
Debbie asked you a couple of questions about mindfulness practices. First one, she said, is wondering if Lani has read Blue Mind, the surprising science that shows how being near, in, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do. It's a book by Dr. Wallace Nichols. She's wondering if you incorporate any of that into your practice. And
underwater. Wow. Now I'll tell you what, I'm a scuba diver. So are you a diver, Ocean, for some reason?
I'm not a diver.
Oh, you're not a diver and your name's Ocean?
With a name like Ocean, what's up with that? But I do like the water.
So I really understand about, boy, okay, we went from mindfulness to underwater. The thing about scuba diving is think about this. You're underwater, everything's slowed down and you're breathing slowly and evenly. I mean, it's super meditative. I'm not familiar with that, but I am going to find out about that. I do know about forest bathing, and I do know about green exercise, which means his research shows, and I have this in my fitness book, Fit Quickies too, that when you are doing activity in the outdoors, you actually get greater benefit in your physical development because of that. And by the way, it also works if you're on a stationary bike and you're watching a movie of the outdoors.
Really?
Yeah, there's a transfer like that. You don't get the fresh air and all of that, but it shows there was still there's an increased response. So you're fooling your brain that you're outside. But thank you for the book recommend. So there were several parts of that.
Yeah, there's another one coming up. But first, let me just comment that really what you're describing is kind of getting a twofer or a threefer, and that can happen sometimes. Like you can get your exercise, you can also get your nature exposure, and you can also get social connection, for example, all at the same time, right?
Triple play.
Exactly. Yay for that. So yeah, Debbie had a second question. She said, I've been reading quite a number of books on, and I may mispronounce this, Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, and wondered
I
incorporates this into her mindfulness practice.
Yeah. Well, that's being in the out of doors. And I know forest bathing is actually I'm not an expert on it, but I know it sounds like it's just what it sounds like. We go out to the forest, and don't you feel like you're giving a bath of sorts? And I'm not up on all the strategies, but meditating, doing mindfulness exercises out of doors is really a nice experience. Some people might think, I'm going to be distracted. The birds are singing, the wind is blowing, but these become part of your present experience. Because with mindfulness practice, what you were doing is simply returning to the present moment over and over again. And if that's a sound, and if that's a smell, and if that's the wind in the trees or feeling on your body, then that's a way to keep bringing yourself back to the present.
Thank you. Genesee said, I'm doing 4 times per week of exercise at home. It's like a gym online where I have my schedule and the teacher showing me how to do it.
Okay.
I'm 61 and was diagnosed this year with osteoporosis. I'm not going to take regular medication for that. I'm trying to find another route. My diet now is PBFD. I'm guessing that means plant-based food diet. She may also mean whole foods plant-based. I'm not sure. I was vegetarian for many years and changed 2 months ago. What is your advice?
My advice is to find a copy of Brenda Davis's Becoming Vegan book. And I have it downstairs, or I would hold it up for you. Because she has also her co-author is Belina Masante, something like that.
Santo Molina, yeah.
Thank you. I got them backwards. Brenda is brilliant at putting together how to get what you need into a way that you can eat and meet the need. You don't get lost in, and she has an expanded edition that's about that thick, but you could stick with the quick one, the easy guide that, for example, it will tell you to get your required amount of calcium daily, which you're concerned with the osteoporosis, exactly how many cups of these greens and that greens and collards and kale and these things, and then to be sure to complement it with the nutrients that are going to increase absorption. But it's the most approachable book I've ever seen, and I know she has videos online too, but Brenda Davis, and she's written cookbooks too. She just has a new something out about with diabetes, so that's a good place to start. Yeah, another good author is Ginny Messina, and she has a lot of good, this same kind of thing where you get practical stuff you can use instead of getting lost in, you know, your meal becoming a science project of nutrient breakdown. Who wants that? It's just like, forget it. I want to enjoy my food.
And then, of course, the other big thing is weight-bearing exercise is huge for osteoporosis. Bones get stronger when we use them and when we press into them with weight. So strength building is really helpful. So good on you for getting
both of them.
Gym online and doing that 4 times a week. That's a great step.
Yeah, that's with the strength training, but walking is good too, because the way bone builds is through stress. So and that's why they call, say, weight-bearing exercise is needed for you to be able to build bone, because every time your body gets some kind of jar against the bone, it lays down new mineral. So actually walking is a weight-bearing too. So here we come with just sitting less. That's a problem when we have extended lying. Oh, by the way, sitting, and people might think, well, I can just lie then, lie down. No, it's the same thing. It's not moving around. All those things will cause some kind of your body to lay down bone. So, and like Ocean just said, weight training, every time, let's say you do a bicep curl and you feel the muscle is tugging against the bone. So it actually, even that exercise, it doesn't seem like I'm doing anything pounding, but it's muscle tugging on bone that helps you lay down a mineral that builds bone density.
Yeah, thank you. Evie asked, any meditation models to follow? As I meditate, I always wander off to Alice Lala's land. LOL. How to make meditation less boring and become interesting?
Well, by the way, that's, it's funny because people will say, I really would like to learn how to do some meditation or some mindfulness, just improve my life. But every time I sit down, my mind just goes, it's just going crazy. And my response to that is that's because that's what it's doing all the time. You just didn't notice it until you sat down and sought to do something else, which was, we're so conditioned to just follow every thought, every stimulation that comes into our mind, that when we seek to abstain from doing that, it can be challenging. So this is where the practice comes in again. And let me give you 4 steps, because in my meditation books, I give 4 steps for easily setting up how to a mindfulness practice. And by the way, the Mindful Vegan, which was my first mindfulness book, came out in 2017. I set it up, a 30-day program. And day 1 is 1 minute of mindfulness practice. And I give a lesson, and I have audios free on my site, which you can actually go and get now and just go through the 30 days. Day 2 is 2 minutes. Day 3 is 3 minutes. But I follow a specific program because step by step, let me give you the 4 steps, because everyone can do that as a takeaway. It's the acronym is PAIR, P-A-I-R. So let me explain that. We could actually all do this together really quickly. Your P stands for position. So most of us, if you're seated, fine. If you're driving in a car, then just listen. Don't participate so much. So P is position. What you want to have is a relaxed yet attentive position. This is not time for the lazy boy couch. You are just seated upright, like you're actually doing and being something. P for position. A is anchor. Find an anchor point for your attention. So this is where we're used to just our mind is going everywhere, because whatever comes across the mind becomes our anchor and drags us there and then drags us there. It drives us crazy, right? So this is why the breath is used often as a way to bring your attention in during mindfulness practice, because the breath, it's always there. You can't not breathe. You know, the next breath, you can't breathe for yesterday and you can't breathe for tomorrow. So it brings you right into the present moment. So you can find wherever in your body that you are connecting with the breath the most, whether it's right here at the nose, whether it's in the belly, whether it's at the chest. Find it. Where do you feel the breath coming in and leaving? I stands for intention. What is your intention for doing this practice? It's not a perfect, it's a practice of bringing your attention back to the present moment with the breath. Is it for 1 minute? Is it for 5 minutes? Because if you just say, I'm just going to sit here and do this till whenever, well, guess whenever comes up in about 30 seconds and you're off and running. So set an intention of a time for yourself. And there are timers. You can use Insight Timer, and I have some of my meditations on that. It's a free app that you can download. So that's I, position, anchor, intention, and R, it is remindfulness, which is a combination of every time you remember your intention and what you're doing, you return to the point of anchor and you repeat that over and over again. That's all mindfulness meditation is. It's bringing your attention back. It's dropping the stories. And even if you find yourself down the road on the train track in your mind and you realize, oh, that's right, I'm sitting here. That is what mindfulness is about. It's dropping and coming back to the present moment. So you can't go wrong. If you blow it, in other words, if you just follow thoughts for 100 times in a minute and you keep bringing it back, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I really want us to just add onto this. So position, anchor, intention, and mindfulness. The whole this training is so that and let's not forget this, because it tags onto everything that you're doing in this program with your lucky members, Ocean. And that is getting some kind of degree of mastery over our habits. And with mindfulness practice, you're developing a degree of mastery over your habits of thinking. Now, if you can do that, isn't the world yours? If you can get some degree of mastery over your habits of thinking and not allowing everything to take you around, you start to be able to make better choices. You have better sense of presence. You're a better listener. You still have horrible human moment days, but you have a better chance at having some degree of mastery of what you're thinking about and where you're going with your emotions.
Thank you. A couple other resources for Whole Life Club members. We have conducted interviews in the past with Justin Michael Williams, who wrote a book called Stay Woke, Meditation for the Rest of Us. And he shared some wonderful tips in that interview. Right. And then also Tara Brach, who is one of the leading mindfulness teachers in the world today and absolutely brilliant, deep soul. And we got to interview her for Whole Life Club as well. So for our members, go ahead and check out those interviews if you want to go a little deeper into some of this. And of course, Lani, I think you also have great resources people can find out.
I was just mentioning, and I'm so glad you brought Tara up, because she's a friend of mine, and she actually wrote a cover piece for my latest mindfulness book, which I'm just thrilled about. Anything that you can get from Tara is good. But yeah, I have the Mindful Vegan, and then new came out is just mindfulness, which is just a little bit different, brings some of the history in and helps us really specifically break down day to day as well. So, and on my website, there's lots, like I said, those 30 audios are there for free. You'll find them on my blog.
Great. Okay, well, we're almost out of time, but I want to see if we can get to a couple more here. Laura asked, are there any good foods for eating before and after running?
You know, it's funny because I remember going through a period of time like that. I was a runner and I just really wanted to stoke the muscles correctly and do that all. I think the important thing to remember, it depends on how intense your exercise has been. If you've gone on a quick run, your body, a fast, hard run, your body is going to be ready and willing to absorb glycogen into the muscles, which is your primary source of fuel for energy. So you want to restore that, which means you can have anything that will do that, which can be fruits are really good for after a quick run like that. But when you're looking, if it's later and you're having some rest time, it sounds like she's talking about right after. And I would say what sounds good too, as long as you're looking to the whole plant foods genre, you know, if a piece of cream pie sounds good, well, let's look at that. That probably means you feel like some sugar for your system. So how can you meet that with your human wisdom? And that is to go to the whole plant foods that are going to restore that glycogen to your muscles. So you can listen to that.
Yes, thank you. Max asked, what are the good things to do to keep our fascia flexible?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I have my toy here. I'll explain this in a minute. Many people are probably familiar with this. Just to explain what fascia is, it's like a vascular nerve sheath that is surrounding every blood vessel, every muscle. It just kind of keeps things in little packages. And it's very sensitive. Like I said, it's very vascular, and it's as sensitive as skin, really, if you were to get in and touch it. It kind of helps hold things in place, and it also feeds these organs. So she was talking about muscle fascia in particular, or she just say fascia?
He just said fascia.
Okay, I bet she's thinking of muscle though, because it is coating over all of our muscles. And sometimes if we try, this is why they say warm up before you exercise. What you're really doing is getting the fascia a little bit of circulation going so that it's less prone to injury and it's going to work on your way a little bit. So warming up is important, but this is for muscle fascia. I really like using a foam roller. And if you haven't tried this, and I have one called Melt. I like it because it has these little nubbies on it. It's a whole program, and it's not too hard. Uh-huh. Some of them are really too hard, but I keep this in the living room too. So you want it nearby, so I throw it on the ground and I actually roll up and down my back on it. It's like self-massage, but this is specific to the fascia. It helps keep it flexible and massages it, and you can do it on your legs, the backs, and the fronts, using your body weight to resist it. So to give you your weight will push you into the foam roller a little bit. So those two things, warm up and some kind of body roller, so that you are giving yourself that massage. This kind of stuff, it just takes that tension out of your neck and your upper back, and yeah.
Nice. Sierra asked, this will probably be our last one here, said, I've always been interested in how hard running is on your body. Would walking an incline, hiking, swimming, etc. be just as good as an exercise and less hard on the body? If so, what are the benefits of running in general?
Well, I think yes. All those are good exercises. And if you feel like running can be stressful because of the pounding on the back of the joints, it does give you a little bit of the osteoporosis the rebuilding the muscle and the bone that we were talking about. But it can also be risky if you're on an uneven surface, if your gait is off. Many people run on a treadmill, which is really not advisable because your gait is not a normal gait. You've shortened your stride, which then starts to create muscle imbalances throughout the body. So I'll tell you what, everything that you just listed as alternatives, pick the ones that you find yourself doing and that you feel best doing. Climbing is good. I love hiking for that because you get the same thing. You have a little more control over what's happening with your joints. You get those big muscles engaged. You get the cardiorespiratory. The benefit with running would be that it fulfills the description of cardiorespiratory, repetitive movement of the large muscle groups of the body. But that's canceled out by if you feel uncomfortable about it, your knees start hurting, and you're not enjoying it. So,
right. And I will say, I know of no faster way to get my heart rate over 140 beats per minute than to put on running shoes and take off. So literally in 10 minutes, I can get a serious bout of exercise. So There is that, but of course there are lots of other options too.
Yeah, you can climb a hill. We're in the Sonoma Mountains here, and every morning we call it the Coast Trail, because you get up there and you can see all the way to Point Reyes out on the peninsula. So if you're moving up there at a good pace, you can do a stair climbing too if you just have equipment. So.
All right. Well, Lani, we're nearing the end of our time here. For those of our audience who are, let's say, wanting a little extra motivation, some words of wisdom or a pep talk of sorts to help them apply all that we're talking about here today and to get more active and moving in their lives, what would you say?
I would say, since we're circling back to that good about sedentarism and, sitting too much is hazardous to your health, something that's really helpful, I'll start with this, is to do what I call a metabolic profile. And I have this in my book, The Plant-Based Journey, which is my nutrition book. And with a metabolic profile, what you do is you do some self-awareness. For a day or two, you keep a piece of paper handy and you just write down not what you're eating, what you're doing. So let's say you get up, say it's 7 o'clock, and from 7 to 7:30, you're sitting, having your hot drink, your coffee or tea, whatever. So you're probably sitting. So you write that down. Then at 7:30, maybe you take, 10 minutes and do some kind of activities. You write that down. Then maybe from 8 till 9, you're driving in the car somewhere. You would be surprised at how much not standing or moving we were doing. And that's why it's called the metabolic profile. People are astonished to see that 80% of the time or more, they're not standing or moving. And that's a good self-awareness. So not to put guilt there, but to start where you are.
Yeah.
The other thing is to pick and choose and build upon. And I will take this back to the very basic, because you may have some people like this. I certainly have worked with many people who have tremendous health challenges, whether it's physical disabilities or a lot of excess weight. And I remember a time on a call, I was giving a seminar, and a woman said, well, I'm so overweight. I weigh 300 pounds, and it hurts to move. I can't think of going out and doing any of this kind of exercise. So I said, and this is just to give an allegory that anyone could apply. I said, well, can you stand? She goes, yeah. And I said, well, why don't you do this? Today, pick 5 minutes sometime or 2 minutes where you just stand. It could be watching TV. It could be in your kitchen. It could be anything. Just stand. And guess what? That led to a year later, she was 100 pounds lighter, because when she started just doing something, one led to another. Now, if I had said, well, don't just stand, that's not going to give you anything. She built upon it. There's ways to build things in. I had another client, Nicole, and she had 2 young children. She would walk to school every day. And then she came home. She had all this ambition about, I'm going to do my yoga and do this and that. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Know that. We know what that's like. So upon interview, it turned out that when she had her yoga pants on, it always made her feel kind of zippy and like, how that are, they can hug you in just the right way, the right clothes. So this was a simple strategy, but it changed her life. She put her yoga pants on before she walked her kids to school, which is just a few blocks away, came back, and she felt motivated to start doing her yoga then. Little things like that.
Wow.
So if you can find ways to just sit a little bit less and then challenge yourself forward, enjoy the benefits of what it's like to have a clearer mind, a little bit of a stronger body. And remember that all of this, whether it's physical activity, mindfulness, meditation, correct nutrition, it's all practice. There's no such thing as perfect. It's practice. And that's what you do.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I just would add one other thing. You're worth it.
Yeah.
We are. A lot of us will do anything for the people we love, and we give and take care of everything else. And we're always responding to external stimuli. And just taking the time to say, you know what, an overflowing cup gives most bountifully. Like just taking the time to love precious you and care for precious you tells your cells, tells your body that it's worth taking care of. And you start listening to the signals your body sends you, and you're less likely to get injured. and you're more likely to become attuned to your body's native wisdom, because your body knows a lot once it gets engaged. Once you stop trying to drown it out and start listening and evoking that wisdom, you'll find incredible resources emerge.
That's very good advice. One thing in the same vein that is helpful to me is the word kindness, because some people will have a resistance to doing something for yourself. But if you feel like, one of my missions in life is to kindness, and that means kindness to yourself. So how can you be kind to you as you are kind to others?
Beautiful. Well, Lani, thank you so much. We've been talking here with Lani Muelrath, who is a mindfulness teacher and a fitness coach and a best-selling author. You can find her books online. Lani, it's just been so good to share this time with you. I thank you for your decades of leadership, for bringing body, mind, and spirit together so that you can help all of us to have more peace, more joy, more flexibility, more vitality, and to walk lighter on the earth.
Well, my pleasure. I've so much enjoyed this, and the hour went so fast. So thank you, and please give my love to John.
I will. Blessings to all of you. Thank you for joining us in this Whole Life Action Hour. When it comes to cancer, Alzheimer's, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic illness, what really matters isn't how many books you read, how many webinars you attend, or how much you know. What really matters at the end of the day is what you eat and how you live. The science has given us what we need to know. Now it's time for action. It's time to implement and optimize your healthy lifestyle. It's time to get results. It's time to say goodbye to confusion and hello to clarity. It's time to say goodbye to bad habits and hello to good ones. It's time to fall in love with foods that love you back. It's time to join a community that will support you in achieving your goals. It's time for Whole Life Club. Click the link to find out more and to join in now.